you're all existing schools working across Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire, so I've got some understanding, but obviously at different stages and working in different schools. So just in terms of kind of going forwards with the aims of opening schools facilities, still as they were this year, about working with those schools in those communities with those young people that need it the most. So tackling inequalities. So working with those with special needs, people from culturally diverse communities, and particularly girls and women. So really thinking about your activities within school and who do they need to kind of be aimed at, who are the young people that need it the most. So and kind of directing your funding and need there. And I know, thinking of all three of you, the work you've done this year, you've done exactly that, but just as a reminder for going forward. So thinking about your school community, but also thinking about the wider community, whether that's parents and carers, your school staff, your sixth formers if you're a secondary school, and working as well with other groups within the community to hopefully kind of develop a bit more of a community offer for year 3. So still the same aims as this year, about tackling inequalities and working with those that need it most. Hopefully you've already received from Kirsty, I think a couple of weeks ago now, Kirsty sent out the year 3 information pack with the updated plan. Hi Phil, thank you for joining us.
Hi all.
Hi, you okay?
Yeah, good, thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
It's all right. Do you just want to pop on mute, and then we've then just started on the aims and about working with, tackling inequalities and working with those that need it most in our schools and communities. So yeah, hopefully you've all received the information pack that Kirsty sent out a couple of weeks ago, which has got updates for year 3. But if for some reason you haven't got it to hand, by all means just pop in the chat now and we can send it out to you straight after this session, so it's at the top of your inbox. So just something to share in terms of sustainability and moving forward. So DFE have been very much focused this year in chats about sustainability, and obviously when the money's not there, how are things going to carry on? Now, I know there are certain things that are being heavily funded in school. For example, if you are having school swimming sessions, without that funding, you'd be really, would be really hard to carry that on. But they want us to think about kind of ways that we can try and do that, and obviously with school. So the diagram, no, not really a diagram, is it? The infographic on the left-hand side is just kind of give you some ideas in terms of spending and activities for your funding. But then on the right, just thinking about sustainability. So not just in terms of if you haven't got that money, you can't deliver those sessions, but thinking about kind of getting the most out of it in year 3. So whether that's school assets, equipment, resources, storage, as say anything that's not fixed or permanent. Developing a workforce, so CPD, certainly in terms of level 1, level 2 coaching certificates, or young leaders awards, sports leaders. And then I know a few schools have kind of have linked that to their activity plans this year, whether that's fitness instructors, trampolining instructors, but just really thinking as schools change and staffing changes quite quickly, is there anybody else that needs that kind of upskilling for next year to help with that development? And also, in terms of sustainability, developing lifelong habits for the young people. So the more they experience something positive this year, last year, the more that hopefully going to be inclined to keep that as a habit going forward. So, don't be afraid to try a new thing, do taster sessions. One of our schools in North Nottinghamshire did some taster sessions, and then kind of after that, I think it was 6 weeks of activities, really focused on 1 or 2 activities going forward. So I know that all takes time and connections, but that's something in terms of making sure it's just right for the families. And then relationships, kind of building your relationships with clubs and providers and coaches and things, obviously with us at Active Notts and Active Derbyshire. Also with your school games officers, I know a lot of you link in with them regularly anyway, but we're connected with all of them. They know, and some of the conversations that some people here kind of came to us through some of the SGOs. But if there's somebody working in your area that you're not familiar with, or you want an introduction, please let us know, because we work closely with them. So yeah, yes, when the money's not there will be a void, but in terms of getting the most out of it next year, think about kind of those 4 things in terms of sustainability. And say on the left, I can share this with you afterwards. I think that infographics in that information pack anyway, but just so you've got it. We've had a lot of these things kind of you bought this year in terms of swimming lessons, resources, workforce development, but I don't think any schools have put in this year for any kind of marketing budget, advertising, social media, that kind of stuff. So just think if any of that needs to come, this is the officially the final year to get that in. So hopefully that's useful. I would like to take credit for designing that, but unfortunately it was somebody else, but they did say we were okay to share, so that's good. Okay, so the yellow and green delivery plan, that kind of action plan, application form, whatever you want to call it, we refer to it as our delivery plan. That from year 2 has been amended slightly. Now, it is only slightly. Some things have been added and some things have been taken out by the national team because of Department of Education's recommendations. So we have adapted it, or Kirsty has. So we have our document looks just the same with a couple of tweaks. Because it was quite a different document and nobody wants to get used to a whole new form in year 3. So they've taken out questions about the length of sessions and barriers to using your facilities and hours of running projects, but they've added in things like barriers to OSF. So don't think by putting something in there you're, criticising or being negative towards us. Our hands feel tied at times in terms of what we can and can't fund as well. So please be honest. There's a drop-down menu on the new form. So one school that came to session last week was talking about being a PFI school, and that is a barrier in terms of opening up in the evening. I was going to say PFI stands for public finance. Anyway, yes, yeah, another spot now. But yeah, please be honest about the barriers, whether that's you couldn't fund this or it was that, or just and let them know, because then if there is ever going to be another version of this, it would be useful to know. And they've also added about sustainability, your workforce, your school. So again, try and think of some of those things we just mentioned before in terms of how you'll try and sustain some of the activities. They're asking us to thinking really about year 4. So despite this being a 3-year project and the funding currently being to year 3, thinking after this, how in year 4 will you still be doing some of the opening school facilities work, if possible. So yeah, so now I'm going to hand over to Kirsty and I'm going to share an example of a plan that we have populated as a good example. She says, just trying to now go from this to this. Oh dear, not my diary, don't need to see any of this. Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing for a second before I share something I shouldn't and get the plan, which I do have open already. I just can't find it right now. Here we go. Right, hopefully, and then Kirsty can talk you through these good practice. Is that right, Kirsty? Was that put you on the spot?
Yeah, that's fine.
Hang on, it's coming. Here we go.
Oh, yeah, I can see it now. So, so when we got the new plan, we transferred it over and then we decided to create a good example. So if you do ever get stuck on any of the sections of your delivery plan, you can always have a look at this and we'll send it out and see what kind of we've done as an example in the boxes. And then you can always use that to populate your own plan. So yeah, hopefully lots of you have seen the year 3 plan already. And like Wendy said, it's mainly the same thing. So in terms of your current offer, just a reminder to please have a look at that again. And obviously, if you've added any activities last year, to add that on to your current offer. And you don't actually have to put in all the different types of whole numbers. So hopefully that helps you out in terms of that as well. So if we just keep scrolling down, Wendy. Yeah, take up the same. If you could just go through and just, if you need to amend these, just repopulate the year 3. So you take up hours open for extracurricular activities and to the community, and then any swimming activities as well if you've got your own pool. And then line 48, that's your OSF barriers to funding. So this isn't a new question. As Wendy's opened, there's a drop-down menu, so you can just click on any of those that apply if you found that they're a barrier and they would be improved going forwards. And then this is the same again in terms of the access and how your sports facilities and staff. So I should imagine that will probably stay the same. And you can kind of copy and paste from your year 2 plan for that one. And then in terms of the project details, so overview of the project, just a reminder that only needs to be a brief statement. And then in terms of your project provision, that's where you're going to put more detail about who your project's aimed for and what you hope to have in place by March of next year, in terms of kind of what it looks like for both your community and the wider community. And then these questions again are majorly the same around priority groups, youth voice, how they've influenced your decisions, and community as well. Again, this is all the same. And then, yeah, just populate your new costs in the breakdown on line 68 and also your total cost in 67. And then we've also, if Wendy scrolls to the right, we've put in 7 projects. You don't have to do 7 projects. There's no pressure to do that many. But we just put a few more in. So if you do want to add anything, there's a few more rows to the right-hand side too. And we put some more examples of projects in there as well.
Can I just say, Kirsty, bearing in mind this week and we're still invoicing and thinking money's very much, I know a few schools have had a bit of an overspend this year in year 2, and some of that because of things that have not been able to take place for one reason or another, but also sometimes because of the VAT. So of course schools claim VAT back. So when you put your costs in here, if ideally you do that without VAT, because if say that 4,813 that Kirsty's put in there is the figure that then we transfer and you are allocated for project 1 swimming for £4,813, then afterwards when the VAT comes off, it comes down to, what would 20% of that be? Oh god, 10, make just over £4,000 roughly. Then it would look like you've had an underspend, whereas actually you'd had approved 4,800. So if you try and take your VAT out at the beginning, then you're more likely to get a bit more. If there's a school I'm working with in the city, and I went to him the other day and said, oh, you've got 4,000 underspend. And he said, no, I've spent exactly everything. And we went through it and he'd put VAT in here. So he'd been awarded £4,000 more at the beginning. And then obviously VAT cost came out. So he could have actually spent £4,000 more. And we'd built that into our budget that we've got as well. So it's because some schools took it out and some didn't. So just, and I know VAT is a bit of a nightmare, but even if you just put, or in bowl somewhere, that includes VAT, and then we could have a look at that. But hopefully that's where working with your finance or business manager in school, that's their bread and butter, hopefully. Anyway, sorry, I just wanted to say that, Kirsty, because I don't want more money to go underspent next year. Right, I'll be quiet.
No, that's fine. That's okay. And also that's just reminded me, in terms of your projects, so if you've had 2 projects this year, 1 hockey and 1 swimming, if you can just keep them the same for next year. So project 1 would remain hockey, project 2 remain swimming, and so on, just to make it easier going forwards. So in terms of project collaboration and sustainability, so these are where some new questions have been added that Wendy mentioned before, in terms of looking into beyond OSF, and how you can kind of use relationships to sustain community use, looking at the legacy of the provision, the workforce, and assets to sustain plans. So if you do get stuck, obviously you can refer to this and have a look and see what we've written in. But a lot of it you're probably already doing as well, and a lot of it can come from kind of the detail above around your project provision. And then just to overall finance for year 3, so obviously removing those costs for year 2 and working out what you're going to spend in year 3. Don't worry too much about your actual claim to date. We can fill that in. That's just to total what you've spent so far. And then at the bottom, it's just the usual questions around data collection, if you're happy with that. And then also some information about who you're working with in terms of national and local organisations, just at the bottom as well. So if you can add in details about who you're working with, that's great, because our team, as an active partnership and the national active partnership team, are really interested to know kind of which organisations OSF are working with. Wendy?
Right, I'm back on what next? Can you see what next now?
Yes, you're back on what next.
Hang on, it's not big enough though, is it? Right, there we go.
In terms of what next, so looking at year 3 plan, it's a good idea to revisit your youth voice if you can, and bringing some community voice too. So looking at the local sports clubs and community clubs, parents, friends of those that your students, just to see if there's anything that would work for them in terms of putting on activities for the community. And also with the youth voice, it may be that some students that did the initial youth voice have left, and some have joined. So just to see if those activities that you are running are done, If you find that any activities aren't working so well, you can leave those for year 2 and start something different in year 3. But if you're unsure, just let us know and we're happy to have a chat about it. So once you've kind of revisited those, bringing together all your ideas for year 3 and starting to complete the delivery plan in as much detail as you can. And if you do need any help, Wendy and I are happy to kind of discuss plans and go through those. And if you've been working with one of our team members, one of the place leads like Helen or Sharon, they're happy to chat about it as well. And then once you've kind of gathered your plan together, if you want to send it through to us, whether that's a draft or you think you've finished it and finalised it, Wendy and I can then have a look through, ready for that to be approved and your funding to be approved. We've put in a deadline of Monday the 3rd of June for all plans to be into us, please. But obviously, if you're ready before then, please do send it over, because the earlier you kind of get your plan in, the faster we can approve your funding and you can start your activities. Yeah, so once you've sent over your plan, Wendy and I'll look through it and then we'll approve your funding allocation and send you an email just to let you know that you can start spending and your activities can begin. In terms of timescales and deadlines, so Monday the 1st of April is technically when year 3 officially begins. So that's when we can start inputting plans and allocating funding. And that Monday the 3rd of June is, like I said, is the deadline for your plans to be sent in. But do send them through as soon as they're ready. And then in terms of once we've got all the plans in and we've allocated all the funding, we can then see if there is any remaining budget. So after the summer holidays, so September, October time, we will then send out an email and contact you all just to let you know if there is any extra funding available. And then if you do feel like you want to spend anything else, we can then confirm that final funding by October half term. DfE have hinted that they're going to be putting some additional deadlines in place for year 3, because the programme officially finishes on March the 31st. Everything has to be done by then. So it may be that they put in some pre-delivery deadlines for invoices in December. But once we know the dates for that, we'll obviously let you know as soon as possible. And yeah, then Monday the 31st of March is when schools have to deliver a minimum of 12 weeks of their activities per project. And the programme officially finishes then too.
I think it's just worth saying in terms of pre-delivery and delivery, we use those words all the time, don't we, Kirsty? But I know there's still a bit of confusion. Yes. Pre and also delivery costs of equipment and all sorts. Pre-delivery is all the items that you need to order and buy to make sure the activity happens, like the equipment, the resources, any CPD. So the stuff that you need to spend your money on before anything can happen is pre-delivery. So I suppose they're saying, really, if you haven't ordered those things by December of next year and got your invoices, and then how can you deliver 12 weeks of that activity before the following March? You know, it's a bit tight. Delivery is not delivery coming from Amazon or Newit's or wherever. Is delivery costs are the coaching sessions, the transport to swimming, the swimming sessions, the things that actually mean it is happening. Just, I'm sure you're all over that, but we've had some confusion recently, especially with delivery costs from, some companies that add another £35 on to deliver something. Oh, there we go. Any questions? Just a big old question. Lots of information. However, it's not. And we'll send this out to you with those key dates in, with the new plan, which you should already have anyway, but just so you've got it all together. But I think the key thing is just, I know quite a few schools this year, just thinking of who's on the call, and there's various sizes of schools and a number of activities, and some have found it easier to really focus on 2 or 3 activities and really get those right and kind of, you know, spend some effort on those. Others have kind of gone wider and it's harder to manage more. So just kind of think about that for year 3 in terms of what's kind of your priority and making the most out of it. We've got 55 schools at the moment working across Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire on this, and there's going to be another 15 schools coming on board for year 3 for the final year, schools that for some reason couldn't be involved previously. So, you know, in terms of our capacity, obviously we are spread a little bit wider, But existing schools obviously have got some knowledge and background, but please do still, you know, ask us, contact us, you know, if there's questions. And I know within the call there's been some people that have kind of hooked up and had conversations with other schools that are doing similar things. But if you're not sure, if you've got a question in terms of, oh, you know, I can't find this, or I need someone to help me deliver this, please ask, because we haven't always got the answer, but we'll certainly try really hard to find it for you. And within our team, we've got, you know, the place team working across Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire, got loads of contacts. And also just other schools, you know, as in, I know kind of what you're all working on. So there's 2 schools on this call here that I think if you don't already know each other, it'd be really good for you to know each other, because you're doing very similar things for very similar young people. So yeah, but obviously we can only do that with your permission. So any questions with what we've just gone through in terms of timelines, focus, anything, or is it all